All right, shalom, family.
Shalom, everyone.
How's everyone? I hope that this message finds you well and in the faith of our fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who loved us enough to be the propitiation for our sin. And for that, we're very thankful. I'm here today with my wife.
Shalom.
We're going to be discussing a few items, a few concepts. We're going to talk about a few topics. We're going to talk about marriage. And in order for there to be a marriage, you have to have a bride and a groom, of course. Well, we're speaking from a traditional sense. Our conversations are directed in the Israelite tradition. We believe in serving the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So what we advocate would be compliant with the mandates and the definitions that he's given us. So my wife and I, we were talking just about marriage, and there's a lot of conversations about marriage. And I put a post on Facebook, and I said, at what point will we begin to have open conversations about betrothals and arranged marriages? Because for me, I see a lot of that as, the Father is pivoting our attention away from a lot of the just misnomers, a lot of the colonized thoughts that we've had, to begin to break that down to and get back to what he originally intended. So with that, my wife, you said something that was really, really profound. You said that before we can get to marriage, a lot of times women want to be brides and they don't want to be wives. Mm-hmm. So take a second and let's go back in that conversation, because I thought that was great analysis and a great assessment on your part. Mm-hmm. Just about those, because they're two different things. How is that different in your mind?
Because I think the way that we are in the society that most of us are bathed in, it's kind of like you look at the bride as the final stage of the courtship. Mm-hmm. Like I won. Ooh, he wants to marry me. I won. I'm going to be a bride. Mm-hmm. Without thinking about what that actually is the beginning of. So in the Western mind, like the bride, that's it. I've made it, I've done it. But no one talks about what that step actually starts, which is the wife, the marriage, the work. Mm-hmm. A different kind of work.
Being a bride is a one-time event.
Yes.
It's a one-time event that people, really relish. And I think that
there's a lot of planning around being a bride, but no one plans about the wife part.
And that's
right. So, it's just a lot of planning the dress, and none of which is important in the first place.
Do you think that we or women in the culture, or let's just say growing up Black, mm-hmm. that they do as much preparation for the wife role versus the bride role? Mm-hmm. No? Because the bride,
I don't think so. I mean,
no, and we can't speak for everybody.
No,
it's just in our experience.
Even in my own situation.
Talk about it.
I don't think that I thought about what it was to be a wife. That's why, you meet someone and they say, baby, especially an aged woman who's been married for a while, she'll say it's not easy. It's mm-hmm. work.
Right.
It takes work, but nobody really breaks that down. Like, what is that work?
What does that mean?
You just think it means I got to make sure we go on a date once a week. I got to make sure, mm-hmm. That I'm still cute and, whatever. That's the work that a lot of people think.
Presume.
Right. You don't really think of, all the issues that come your way or yours together, whether they're his or yours or both of y'all's.
It's a lot.
Right. It's one.
Well, like you said, being a bride is a one-time event. Mm-hmm. Being a wife is a lifetime commitment.
Yes.
So there should definitely be more work and more emphasis placed on the wife role. Mm-hmm. A lot of women may want to be wives, but have they been nurtured and prepared for this office, because it really is an office.
Right.
It really has a definition according to the scriptures. It's not, I think that a lot of times, I'm not going to speak for women, I'm not going to do that. But do you think that they have not been prepared properly for that
I think
role?
anybody can be a bride, but everybody can't be a wife.
Mm.
I think anybody could be a bride. I mean, you know, if that's really all it is just to get through that ceremony and get married, and we're legal, we're married now.
So what are some of the things that you have had to adjust? What are some nuggets that you can give some potential wives that are out there that clearly they want this? They've come, they may understand who they are as a people, they've been awakened, they have a level of consciousness, or they could be in a whole other vibration. It doesn't matter. But what are some of the things that you've been able to glean that you could pass on? And I'll cycle back to that. Go to that.
I mean, it's a very long list.
It is, but just drop a few nuggets that may be beneficial.
Okay, let me see. Top 3. Shut up.
What do you mean by that?
Everything that you think you need to say, you don't need to say. Whether you think it's helpful or not, shut up.
Okay. Now, if I said that,
Right.
y'all will be down my throat like, he's such a cruel, and he talking about this patriarchy, and he just tells his wife to shut up. Do I tell you to shut up?
No.
No. I don't.
Never.
No, I don't do that.
No. And I think that's a self-awareness that comes because, especially if you're raised like me. I was raised by my mother, who was from a family that was largely matriarchal.
That's most people.
My mother and father divorced. My grandmother was a widow, and her sisters were widows. My aunts, my mother's aunts. So they were all very strong women, but they didn't talk negatively about men, like women who just are in broken situations. They understood the power of being a wife and being a bride and having, the covering of a man. They understood that, so they always pushed for that. You need to be married, you need to get married. Whereas, even though that may have been the case, I didn't see the example of role play. My mother in her role, my father in his role, in the right way. I didn't see it. So when, I met you, it was kind of like, that was some of the stuff we talked about. It was a little bit of commonality to some degree, but, we understood that if this was to work, there was no way out.
Yeah.
So one of my things is shut up.
Okay.
Don't be so easily offended.
Wait a minute. That's a big one. Easily offended. What might be an example of a woman becoming easily offended, then using that emotion, using that to like trigger her emotions, to act out, and say things, do things that may not be beneficial to the relationship. So what do you mean by that?
But the offended part?
Everything ain't about you.
Don't think for a minute that every move your husband is making or doing is to grind your nerves or something. Like you did that on purpose, or he's doing something trying to upset me or whatever. I mean, I don't think I was like that.
No,
but I would be not as communicative, and then I would be offended when I didn't get what I thought I needed from you. But I never told you really what it was, because you should already know. If I got to tell you,
you should already know. You're supposed to be connected with me like that.
You're supposed to know.
Yeah.
But then getting offended. So it's not necessarily easily offended. I guess communication about what you need is important. Because if you don't, then you can't assume the other person knows anything.
Okay. No, that's rich.
Yeah.
That's rich. So, do you think
another thing. Your husband can correct you.
Yeah.
And it's not that he's rejecting you. He's just telling you.
Why'd you say
the
that?
way.
So why'd you say that? Because we have a saying here at the house that correction is not rejection. Oftentimes, people respond so violently and so negatively when they perceive rejection.
All three of those things that I just mentioned go together. I mean, being quiet, not being
easily offended.
and being able to take correction. So
Mm-hmm.
if you can't take correction, you're probably gonna get offended. And you're gonna probably mouth off. So that's three right there.
It's
You
all
know,
connected.
so it's all connected. I mean, it's like women have to govern themselves. We have to be able to control
But how?
our emotions.
That's almost seems like exercise in futility. If they have not been taught or matured to understand that.
It's not gonna. I don't think it comes through just osmosis. I think it's through trials. I think it's through tests that come.
So is there a test or something that came for you that helped you know that what you were doing wasn't beneficial, to help you transition, to be able to govern yourself and not be easily offended, to learn when to speak?
I don't think it was just a singular thing. I think that it's just partially just experience in the relationship.
Right.
What triggers there are, what things appear to make things easier for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because then it's like, okay, if that's all he wants, okay, I can do that. If I just be quiet and not say anything right now, because I think you remember when Imogena, me, Imogena, Elder Murray were on the call, and I called you my best friend.
Yes. So, little backstory. That's the only time that we've ever received marriage counseling was from the elder, the Honorable Dr. Murray. So, and we had been, 15 years, 16 years in, about 16 years in before we ever had, anyone that could speak to me in a way where, they were above me in the relationship to where, with my father, my wife may say, I'm gonna tell your dad, and it's like, okay, hold on, you ain't playing fair. Don't tell Abba. And so, she'll pull that card sometimes with Elder Murray, which is, that's funny. But we went into it with no outs. I had been through a divorce before, so I know that this conversation, we're just kind of going back and forth because I tend to speak to patriarchy and family, but I don't tend to speak to women. So I brought my wife to speak to women issues because that's not my lane. I know my lane, but we went into this with no outs. So I asked my wife. I said, "Well, babe, was there a time, or when you said you stood at the altar, you made a vow before the Most High, you said, I do, for better, for worse, sickness or health, for richer, for poorer, all these things. Was there a proverbial red line that I say I do until you do this? Like if that nigga do that, it's a wrap."
And I can even remember this conversation, just, talking to some friends or whatever, and somebody mentioned that their dude or whoever cheated on them, and they were just, I'm gonna leave, and
Just devastated.
all this stuff, and I was like, okay, I sat there and I thought about it to myself, and I was like, they really would throw away a whole existence because somebody did something and they got offended.
Easily offended.
By it.
Now,
it used to be the thing like, well, if it's a mistake, then, but if you repetitively doing it, it ain't a mistake no more.
Yeah.
It was that kind of conversation. But
see,
I still remember thinking, especially at the stage of marriage where you're not going anywhere. Why even say that? Are you saying that for other people?
Well, that's
Because
a good
that's
point.
the
But
ultimate
have you
loss
gotten?
is the relationship. Isn't that really what it? That's the loss. So you're gonna walk away before
You said something about. Are you saying it for you or for other people? What are your thoughts about getting other people in your
I think it's
relationship?
the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah,
I think
because
it's
now
the
you're trying to
dumbest
save
thing
face.
ever, right? Because now your ego is on the altar.
Mm.
Now it's you standing up here because you got to make good on all these threats, all these things. But what you not gonna do and what he better not do. Now you got to make good on all of it, or
Yeah.
you're gonna lose your girlfriend status.
Yeah.
So what's more important to you?
What's more important?
Like, really be quiet.
Yeah, keep
Nobody
it to
has
yourself.
to know anything, and you shouldn't be talking to them that much about your relationship anyway.
Right. And a lot of times.
And they're gonna tell you, girl, yeah, they're gonna egg it on because they want it to end. They probably want him anyway. But anyway.
Okay. That whole thing is not, just saying that someone should stay in a harmful relationship
No.
or any of that. But we take vows seriously.
No, I'm just saying in the sense where you're gonna leave it all.
Yeah. So I would ask women, in that, just stay in that vein. I've asked women who were ready to leave a relationship for said reason. He, cheated. And I asked them, I said, well, do you know a woman that has not been cheated on? And they would think about it like deep down. Maybe they mama, but they don't know mama business. You know what I mean? Maybe they grandmama. But I'm sorry. But do you know like another counterpart that hasn't been cheated on? No.
Grandma and mama was cheated on. I
Right.
don't know what you're talking about. But go
So
ahead.
if that's the case,
I'm just
maybe
saying, you're not that special, sweetie.
maybe you have to think about this differently. Maybe that's not a reason or justification to hit the eject button to cause your house to go into foreclosure,
Gonna lose it all.
destroy the lives of the children for something that clearly is happening repeatedly. So how do we get ahead of this? Even in the Israelite tradition, we got people that are advocating for, well, you should just leave. It's like, bruh, that's not Torah. That's not in the text. Or they are unable to clearly define what adultery is. Adultery is not a man cheating on his wife. According to the scriptures, adultery is a man sleeping with another man's wife. That woman that's in a covenant relationship. Now, if he sleeps with a woman that he doesn't have a covenant with, then that's fornication. So we have to just slow it down and define these terms, which you're doing a great job at defining some of the terms, the mindset, the philosophy, the psychology of an Israelite wife and Isha, which you have done very well, being, my feminine expression. And part of the definition of a wife is one that is concerned with the legacy, the posterity, and the lineage of that man, of her husband. You want to add something to that?
I think you're on the roll.
I'm on a roll. I'll take that. Give it a go. So, if you to be a wife, you have to be concerned about that man's lineage. Everything that comes from him. How is he going to be remembered? Or is it that you're more concerned about yourself because you see yourself separate, excuse me, separate from him versus seeing yourself as one with him? You have to see yourself like as this, lean on in like one thing. If not, it's easy to go about it trying to execute what you think the agenda should be versus really being attuned and accord with that man. And if that's the case, then you are fit to be a wife. At least, these are some of the preliminary conditions
But
that are
that's
being
what
met.
you need to think about, though. It's not just how to get a man to marry you. It's, are you serious about what that means?
Yeah. And we have to really, just reevaluate
What
these
is it
things.
Who says vital for
Baba Sekou, he says, you got to do what's vital for the title.
Yes.
So you want that title, so you have to do what's vital. And, we have so many different examples in the text. The psychology of Mama Sarah, if you look at how she was just really in love with Abraham and wanted him to be increased, wanted him to be multiplied, even if it did not, in terms of a child, even if it did not come from her, because she didn't feel like she could produce. So she took what she had, her handmaid, and gave her to Abraham and said, I want you to use her to continue your line, because she saw herself as one with him and understood that it really isn't about the sex thing. So when I look at, I'm not going to digress into this, but I felt like I need to say it. In the Israelite tradition, there is this whole concept of polygyny, which, it's kind of a lightning rod. But they say, I've heard it said by many, 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 many people, and it's a travesty. It's insulting to reduce a woman to just a sexual conquest. To say that a person has another wife just because he's lusty and wants new action, new coochie. I'm gonna say it. I'm just gonna say it. He want new coochie. Is that what you see this union as being about? Is it that now I only wanted my wife? Is that what I've reduced it to? Is just that a sexual exchange? And I really want, because I've heard people that I have a level of respect for, advocate for that. So please, just reconsider. So back on topic. We talked about brides. We talked about wives, and the difference. And you gave some hard-hitting things for that you've learned about being quiet or shutting up, not being easily offended. Yeah, not being easily offended. And what was it? Not everything that you have to say needs to be said. Or what was the third one?
I don't remember now. Wait a minute. Be quiet.
Not easily offended. Keep your business to
Oh,
yourself.
correction.
Correction is not rejection. Very good. So
I had to think of the three that go together.
right. So we could go on and on. I think we've been going for a few minutes. What are we at, babe?
24 minutes.
24 minutes. That's ample. For the people to digest. Did you have any closing remarks? Anything that you kind of want to put bookends on? Because
just like one more thing.
yeah, come on.
And as far as once you get your wedding and now you're the wife, you don't get to say that you're doing a great job.
Ooh.
As a wife. I'm doing a great job.
Why not?
Because I'm in a role, I'm in a position, and only the person over the position can say whether or not I'm doing a good job. No more than at my corporate job can I decide that I'm just doing a good job, I'm not going to do anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Because if that director or VP needs me to do something and I'm not doing it, they can say I'm not. It can impact my pay and my status at the job.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing applies to you being a wife.
That's order. That's
So
order.
you have to understand that, you know, if I'm fulfilling a role here as my husband's wife, and there's certain things and responsibilities that go with that, only he can say how well I'm performing and doing that. I don't get to call my cousin and say, girl, he don't even appreciate me. You know, I do all this stuff, and he just, girl, I know I'm a good wife.
Mm-hmm.
Girl,
He gonna
you
find
are.
he gonna
My
find no
cousin
better than
told
me.
I was a good wife, and my cousin's husband said he wished my cousin was more like me. You know, it's like you worried about the wrong thing.
Right. You know what? I cut you off.
Mm-hmm.
Let's backtrack real quick. I'm sorry. Then we're gonna be done. You said you talked when we were having marriage counseling from the elder
Mm-hmm.
and Imogena, and she cautioned you about saying, "This is my friend."
Well, she was asking, I think it was probably one of our first conversations.
Mhm.
They kind of wanted the background, you know, how did we meet, and, you know, kind of a summary of just the relationship in hindsight. What do you really think of it? And I said, you know, oh, you know, we have always been very close. She's my best friend. And, you know, I went up through, you know, talking or whatever. And she said, okay. Both of them were like, okay. And then she said, I just want to caution you about, and I think of it because I remember her words, caution you.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew, you know, this woman with this wisdom is telling me that this isn't good.
Mm-hmm.
If she wants to caution me
Mm-hmm.
about usage of certain words, and it made perfect sense, you know. So I was corrected. I was not rejected, nor was I negatively affected.
Right.
I do like that.
Nice little rhyme. You slid it in there.
Right. But no, I appreciated it because she did bring to light, you know, the definition. These words mean things. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm now reducing my husband down to a friend,
Mm-hmm.
which isn't a negative term. It's just, you know,
There's
it
this element.
assigns a kind of, I don't know.
It's just this whole element of equality, and we're here versus there has to be clear hierarchy in the home,
Mm-hmm.
and that hierarchy takes into account all of the beautiful qualities, the wisdom, the understanding that everyone has in their specific roles before decisions are made. But back to what you alluded to, in a corporate setting, someone has to make that decision.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing in family and in marriage. That patriarch has to make that decision. And if he's worth his weight, and you know, and if he's wise, he would take the information, real-time data from his wife or his wives,
Mm-hmm.
his children, that could bring him information at you know, from different areas before he makes that decision. And then, because everybody has to put on their seatbelt and ride with him
Mm-hmm.
at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So
There was something you used to say before all this. I didn't forget. I tried to hold it and I forgot. It'll come back to me.
it'll come back. It's okay.
No.
But you know, we're just trying to, you know, my sincerest hope is
I
to
remember.
go right ahead before you forget again. Go ahead.
Remember
Go ahead,
tomorrow.
baby. You got it.
Used to say, I can't remember what the context was, but it was about helping. And you said, I think it was, I was saying, I'm just trying to help out or something. You said, well, the worst thing you could do is somebody help they don't need or something. Or something to that effect. And I always think about that because it was funny, but it was, you know, probably got mad at you, but it was funny because it's true.
Yeah.
Like, what I look like helping you, if you're trying to get water out of the boat and I'm on the other side putting water in the boat because I'm helping you fill it up, like,
right.
I'm helping you.
I don't need no help.
That's not the kind of help I need, you know, like that's trying to kill us all. Like, I ain't trying to need that kind of help, so.
You gonna help?
You know, as a help me, my point is, you know, a little comic insertion there, but my
Right.
point is, as a help me, I have to meet his needs
Right.
to
Very
help him. So if I don't know what that is, then I'm probably not talking to my husband enough and getting that feedback. You need to know.
Right. And patriarchs, if you're not getting what you need, that is a consequence of your lack of leadership or clearly articulating what you need done, because they're going to reflect you hands down. So I have to take everything that she's given me on the chin and challenge myself in terms of leadership and being a husband and a father. I have to challenge myself to try to help her understand what the vision is. The purpose of communication is so that the person is able to receive it. You want them to be able to receive what you're trying to say. That's why I've had to really adjust my definitions, which, we're talking about, and how I present things to my wife, how patient I am with her, with my sons. If I want them to be kind, if I want them to be forgiving, if I want them to be loving, I have to model that for them in the home on a daily basis. And then it's like you'll earn the credit that's necessary for them to perform the task that you need for them to perform. So, you got anything else?
Nope.
All right, I'm glad you remembered.
I know, I'm sorry I
everything.
cut you off.
No,
I'm
you're
sorry,
good.
I'm sorry.
You're good.
But they're like, boop, leave. I'll be
It'll be
like,
gone. Right.
what happened? Yeah.
You giving me the help that I need,
Yes,
not
okay,
the help
thank
that I
you.
don't need.
You gotta ask.
Yes. All right, families. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom,
Thank you guys for taking a second to view this video. Please feel free to like it, share it. Our highest hope, like I was saying, is to try to help families come back together. Follow this Israelite tradition and do it the way that our fathers did it, not from a colonized consciousness. We're decolonized. We're not operating from that paradigm anymore. We're going to align with the text, and we don't care who doesn't like it, appreciate it, or value it. We're doing this unapologetic. All right, family. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom.